Hi, I'm Lisa Leiter. In Chicago Business Today, jobs. One of the most pressing problems the next mayor of Chicago will have to deal with is how to create more jobs. The Chicago area lost more than 200,000 jobs during the recession alone, and total city employment has dropped during Mayor Daley's tenure. Each week, I'll be sitting down with Crain's political columnist Greg Hinz to talk more about the candidates for mayor. And this week, we began our conversation with some ideas on how to stimulate job growth.
The thing we heard most commonly in talking to business people and economists and whatever was finish the job out at O'Hare, the expansion and the repositioning of that. There's so many sectors of the city's economy, particularly tourism, leisure, conventions, all the consultants and lawyers and whatever work downtown. They all have to have good transportation or they'll go somewhere else where the cost is cheaper.
Okay. What are some of the candidates for mayor saying that they want to do to support job growth? Have we heard any detailed proposals at all from the major candidates?
No, actually for the most part they haven't even declared yet. They're trying to get through the November general election, but I think you'll all hear them talk about how to make Chicago more entrepreneur friendly. This mayor took a bunch of stabs at one-stop shopping and all but the inspectors still come like flies. Nobody has solved that. And I think people are going to be looking for some real solid proposals from the candidates on that.
We saw the deal this week the state gave to Groupon. Are those the types of things that we need to see to spur job growth?
Well, that's a controversial question that depends on your point of view. Like it or not, we live in a world where everybody is trying to steal each other's lunch, and that goes for states and cities that are trying to take away each other's employers. That having been said, there is a certain disconnect on here's Groupon, which is according to supposedly the fastest growing internet company ever. It's rolling in money, coming to the state of Illinois, which has a $13 billion deficit, saying, "Say guys, we need a handout to stay." It may be necessary, but I don't think anybody is terribly happy about it.
That's for sure. A lot of people said these manufacturing jobs that went away during the recession are never coming back. But the truth is, every time I interview somebody about what jobs are available, they say there are a lot of jobs for skilled workers and that maybe we're not training our workforce properly. What would you say about that?
Yeah, the key word in what you said is skilled. Probably the area of government that needs the most turning around right now is Chicago City Colleges, which can't quite seem to make up its mind whether it's mostly going to be a college prep school or whether it's going to be a vocational school to train kids into jobs they can go into right away. You probably ought to see a lot more emphasis on the latter because you're absolutely correct. If you have a decent education and you've received some and an overwhelming amount of sophisticated training, there are manufacturing jobs out there. We're just not getting them.
How many jobs could be created by boosting our convention and trade business? What do you think these candidates will be able to do to try to bring some of those jobs back?
It's not only convention business, it's tourism, which frankly is maybe bigger. And traditionally in this town, we spend the money to attract the big conventions because it's the big hotels and whatever know that it's a big chunk of dough and they go after it. But if we would also work on the tourism thing, collectively, that might be even more important. These are some of the only kinds of jobs left where with minimum skills you can make a decent buck and essentially work yourself into the middle class. Every so often, about every 10 years there's a crisis and everybody rushes in, we're going to do this, that, the other, but we need to feed and water that every day of the year.
Well, of course, one of the reasons for this recession and some of the job loss is the housing crisis. And we had DART this week stopping foreclosures. Some say that was a political move. What's your take on that?
Well, I'll give the sheriff the benefit of the doubt that he doesn't want to enforce court orders that may have been improperly issued. But that's a pretty narrow line he's on. Ultimately, it's not the sheriff's job to play judge. It's the sheriff's job, in this case, to enforce orders issued by a judge. But it's certainly grand politics. I'm with the people who are being pushed around by those nasty old banks, and I think he'll probably push us about as far as he can.
Okay. Well, Greg, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And that's this edition of Chicago Business Today. Be sure to check out Greg's column and his story about jobs in next week's print edition of Crain's and his blog on chicagobusiness.com. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Monday.